Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not.
All right, excited to have my brother Reggie Bush back on the podcast again. Of course, Saints legend, which we'll talk about in a second. Did not look great last night. Spent a little time with the Dolphins as well, which you have some of my favorite Dolphins stories of all time. And of course, USC legends, one of the greatest college football players of all time, and a member of Fox's Big Noon Kickoff show. You guys have Oklahoma and K-State and the Longhorns and Red Raiders this weekend?
Coming up, big one this weekend.
So college football's back. I think everyone was a little nervous if that was going to happen at all, and obviously not all of college football is back. But what's your initial reaction to just the level of play that you've seen so far?
I think the level of play has been pretty good given the circumstances and given what everybody's been going through. Some kids opting out, some kids, most kids obviously, wanting to play and getting a chance to play football, and just under the conditions of COVID too. You know what I mean? It's something that these kids are living through, an experience that I have no experience in, that no other NFL player has experience in, because this is the first time we've ever dealt with this thing. So I think given the circumstances, I'm very impressed and very happy with what I've seen from the players. I think the one thing that has me worried right now is this freaking Grim Reaper who is snatching ACLs left and right. You got players getting hurt left and right on the field, ACLs, and I think it has to do with the lack of preparation in the offseason for guys. And then you're matching that with, full speed live contact on turf, which is a very tough surface. I think that's why we're seeing such a high number of guys getting injured. So that's the only thing that worries me right now, just seeing how many guys are getting injured, because it seems to be just like every weekend. These are big names.
Now, I know it's kind of hard to ask this question because, you're answering it from the experience that you have now.
Yeah.
And, we're older and in different phases of our lives. But you were obviously a very high profile college player, and you had an incredible NFL career. So you had a lot to risk. If you were in this situation, if you can put yourself back in, college Reggie, would you opt out of this season?
So I think I would have to take into account all the factors, right? And I don't know what's going to happen with the Pac-12, because I'm hearing reports that they're only going to play 6 games, which is, devastating. I think if you're a college football player, only playing 6 games it's not enough, right? And you're watching, other people playing right now. So I can't imagine just how tough it is for people in the Pac-12 not to be playing and being able to watch other, players play and get a shot to really showcase themselves and build their value, right? Because that's what college is for. College is kind of that middle ground, that middle place where you get to go build your value, whether that's on the football field or whether that's, some career, which is life after football. So if I'm in the Pac-12 right now and somebody came to me and they're like, hey, I think we're probably only get a chance to play like 5-6 games this year, I think I might think really hard about opting out. I think I might opt out because it's not enough games. You know what I mean? And at the same time, there's this struggle because you can make a case, well, I'd rather get some football than no football, right? And then on the flip side, it's, well, you're only going to get 6 games, and God knows, what the committee, how they're going to be able to rank these teams based on this criteria. Like, this is a nightmare for a committee. So it's just so much uncertainty. I can't even say that this college football season is going to go smoothly because we've already seen Baylor. Our last weekend we were supposed to have Baylor, and that game got canceled, right? And so this is such foreign territory for everybody that I think it kind of feels like every man for himself a little bit, and I mean that every man for himself with whatever decision that you make, because how can you tell somebody you should be playing football right now in the middle of this COVID, middle of this pandemic, and also at the same time you can't fault the kids for making those decisions. And so I'll just be honest with you, Joy, I'm not sure what I would do, but I think I would definitely think really hard about opting out.
Do you think that the Pac-12 recovers from this situation?
I think it's going to be very tough. for them to recover from this because, you look at what Ryan Day did for the Big Ten. Like when I first heard that coaches were lobbying and going against their conference, presidents, I was like, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, this is insubordinate. Like you're being a bad leader and you're putting kids, health and lives at risk. And now, like, as if everything is unfolded, I'm like, damn, that was kind of amazing that he did that. You know what I mean? That they were on the forefront and they fought back because, again, that's what I said. I don't have experience in this, right? Like, who does? Nobody knows what the right or wrong answer is. And I love the fact that a coach is willing to go toe to toe with, whoever he needs to get football played. I just want it to be done safely. That's all I know. You know what I mean? And so, it's just such foreign territory in different times, man. I'm amazed. I'll be honest with you. I'm amazed by everything that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL being able to get the season started, obviously much more smoothly than college is not that surprising. But I mean, Colin and I talk about it every day. I can't believe it. Like, I'm kind of, I guess I've been in Cali for a while, so I'm like, gratitude. But like, I really can't believe that we have sports at this level with, like, thinking back to just the like state of despair that all of us were in when we were on, the stay-at-home orders to where we are now is just crazy. I think it's really a testament to how many smart people we have in sports today.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, these are such, like I said, these times that we're going through, these are going to be things that we're talking to our grandkids about. Like, we're going to be talking about this, reminiscing back. Like, we had to live through this. Sports had to live through these things, and this is how far the sport has come. Right? These are the hurdles that they've had to overcome. These are the hurdles that some of these players and their families had to overcome so that they could make it to the NFL. You know what I mean? So that they could, go and have a better life and provide, the things that, we all want, which is a better life, right? And so, but yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Joe.
So the Saints played last night against the Las Vegas Raiders in the opening
Mm-hmm.
of the Allegiant Stadium. Didn't look great. Now, I picked the Saints to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl and lose to the Ravens. I also picked Drew Brees to win the MVP this year. I don't know how strong that is after last night. But what happened? Like, is it an overreaction to Drew Brees? Because everyone's crushing Drew today.
Yeah. Is it an overreaction? No, I don't think it's an overreaction because when you're able to accomplish the kinds of things that he has in his career, well, with whom much is given, you also got to be able to take all the criticism and everything else that comes along with it, right? And so that's the nature of the beast. I don't feel sorry for Drew Brees. I don't feel sorry for, any of these players, any of these quarterbacks, because especially for Drew, because he's been able to build up such an amazing reputation of the kind of player he is and the kind of guy that goes to work every single day. And I've seen that firsthand. I've seen the kind of work ethic that he puts in every single day. And so looking at last night's game, I don't think the Saints look great, but also I think the Las Vegas Raiders look really good. And so I think there has to be, I think people have to lower their expectations for these first couple weeks because this is not a normal offseason. You got to think about week 2 is really like you're still figuring out how to win games, right? You're still figuring out how to build that chemistry together. And Drew Brees didn't have his best weapon, right? He didn't have Michael Thomas on the football field. And Michael Thomas is a guaranteed 14 to 21 points just by his presence being on the football field. So that's the kind of respect that he commands. And so, I know people are talking about these air yards. I don't know exactly what air yards are. This is now, I've never heard of that until today. But the one thing I will say about Drew Brees is he's the kind of guy that he's a leader, right? And a leader is somebody that no matter what the situation is, they're always going to put their team in the right positions to win games, right? And yeah, it's not going to be every second, every minute, right? But nobody's perfect, right? Even Tom Brady struggled against Drew Brees. What did he do the next week after Bruce Arians criticized him? He bounced back, had a better game, still threw an interception, right? Still threw an interception, but at least it wasn't a pick six. And so they were able to manage those losses. They won the football game and then so on. To me, the test for this football team is this next game against Green Bay Packers, because you don't want to lose 2 games in a row. And now that you know that you never want to get caught looking ahead either, but there are times that it happens. I'm sure the Saints saw this as, hey, we're gonna win this football game. You know what I mean? And probably went down there with that confidence. But sometimes teams will hit you in the mouth, and sometimes teams have this refound motivation, moving to Las Vegas. And so that's what I kind of chalk it up to. Hey, they were just a better team on yesterday, and Derek Carr looked good, and this kid Waller, the tight end,
Love
he
him.
is a beast. He is a beast, and he cannot be covered one-on-one. I went back and studied some of his stuff today, and I was watching his routes. He has really, really good feet and really good hips and good routes for a tight end. Like, he doesn't run routes like a traditional tight end. He runs a more like a versatile, athletic tight end. And so I just love watching him last night. I love what he brought to the table. Kid's an absolute beast. And the Raiders have weapons all across the board. So
Yeah, no, he's so fun to watch. So you
yeah.
mentioned Michael Thomas being out. There was a crazy, it feels like a crazy amount of injuries. I mean, I haven't done the research to, compare last year to this year, but it feels like a lot. And certainly 7 torn ACLs in 2 weeks is a lot. Is it because there was no preseason? Because we're all kind of celebrating that there was no preseason, and it seems like
Yeah.
now, maybe 2 games would have been the correct amount.
I think if you don't ever get a chance to practice live and play games live and go through your reps and your plays live, without kind of that blanket of, hey, I'm just going against my teammates. Because here's some of the things that will never happen when you're going against your teammates. You'll never cut block your teammates, right? And so as a running back, if in practice, if a linebacker is blitzing, I will never chop block him because that's my teammate and I know I could hurt him. But in a game, if a linebacker is coming full speed, Von Miller or freaking, whoever, I'm going down low right away. I'm chop blocking the hell out of that dude so I can clear that lane for my quarterback. And so there are certain things that you do and you don't do in practice that you can only get that in a real game. You know what I'm saying? And so to me, there's that. And I've always said this, and I will continue to say this. I will truly believe that the NFL is truly invested in the safety and health of its players when they get rid of turf. Turf is the absolute worst thing you can play full speed, live contact football on. And you imagine trying to take turf to Europe in soccer. They would lose their mind. They would burn some of those cities down if you try to bring turf over there. And they actually tried to do it, and the players were about to revolt. You know what I mean? And so I've always been against turf.
And what
I've
is it
always
about
attributed.
it's the turf that you don't like?
It doesn't give. It doesn't give. And when you stick your cleats, you're going 100 miles an hour, you're in a football field. You're jamming your foot and your cleats into an artificial surface. It's not giving enough. Like grass, when you dig into it, it gives and it slides a little bit. And so it's not grabbing your joints. Turf grabs your joints. When you plant hard, like Odell Beckham Jr., some of these very, very explosive athletes like Lamar Jackson, that's the one thing you always worry about is your knees on turf. And that's actually the reason why the Baltimore Ravens went back to grass. I don't know if you remember, they used to be on turf. And they had a bunch of injuries, and they switched back from turf to grass. And so to me, that's the biggest issue is we got to get every NFL team back to traditional grass. I know turf is low maintenance, is less money, but if we want to see less knee injuries, less major, MCLs, LCLs, Saquon Barkley, I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. It's left and right now.
Yeah, there were so many big losses and big names too. So
Yeah.
there were, I think it was like 3 years ago, I want to say there was a rash of injuries in the NFL that was pretty serious, but it didn't really happen
Yeah.
until later in the season. These first 2 weeks have been brutal. So
Yeah.
Tom Brady is in Tampa now. Obviously, that was the huge story through the offseason. I think they're going to make the playoffs as a wild card team. I don't know that my expectations are that high for them, but it seems to be working early. What's your impression of the Bucs so far?
I like them so far. Do they have a great team on paper? Absolutely. I mean, you just look all across the board, you see some household names on that roster. And that's the thing that, fans, Tampa Bay fans should be excited about that. But I think if you bring it back to reality, um, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished the last 6 years or whatever it is. Even Tom Brady, the GOAT himself, has to respect the laws of football. And the laws of football say that there's no magic to this thing. You have to earn every single minute, every single day, every single hour that you get. And that's just the way it is in this sport. Um, and when you think about him going to a new system, a new team, new weapons, they're having to adjust to Tom Brady just as much as he's having to adjust to them, right? And I think we've even seen that with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is learning how to adjust to Tom Brady too, because he was shocked in week one. So, I think people got to lower their expectations for teams, you know, and it usually never works. And I don't want to say it's not going to work this time because, Tom Brady is different. Every situation is different. But it usually never works when you put together these powerhouse, superstar teams before a number of reasons. Maybe one is there's only one football to go around. You don't have enough to please everybody. And two is there's just a chemistry. The chemistry can just not be there, right? And so what we've seen so far, what I've seen so far from Tampa Bay, I like what I've seen. They have obviously a great backfield with Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Shady McCoy, who can still shake a couple people in the open field. And then Rob Gronkowski, to me he's good, but he's still banged up, right? I think people had this expectation that Brady and Gronk back together, and him going down the middle, you know what I mean, the way he used to in New England. I don't know if he's outrunning linebackers anymore like that. Like Gronkowski has always been a really big tight end, and I think that's why he was so successful is because he was big and then he was fast and athletic and could catch, and he could really just body linebackers. He could body safeties, and nobody was big enough to be able to kind of get around him. But now that he's definitely slower, right? And you match those injuries that he's been through, it's the health of Rob Gronkowski to me is going to have a lot to do with the success of this Tampa Bay offense, because Tom Brady has always needed that tight end down the middle, that presence down the middle. And if he doesn't have that, now, you're kind of taking away a big portion of what he likes to do, and you're just focusing on Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And so I just think that I like what I've seen, but the chemistry is still not there yet. And it still they got some teams coming down the pipeline that you're going to be able to measure them against, like the Kansas City Chiefs. Can Tom Brady keep up with, the amount of points that the Chiefs can put up, in one or two quarters? To me, that's what it's going to come down to, because this is a different game now. We're seeing quarterbacks really put up big numbers, especially the young ones, right? The young quarterbacks. Josh Allen threw 300 yards. I mean, he looked amazing in that football game. And so to me, it's going to come down to when Brady has to play these teams with younger quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks, can he keep up with them? Because sometimes the best defense is a really good offense.
Now, I love Cam Newton for multiple reasons. Like, I am just a Cam Newton fan, and I'm not gonna say I knew this was gonna work, but I knew that Cam was gonna be able to get back to some percentage of Cam, right? And people disregard that he was a league MVP and played in a Super Bowl. Like, it's not like he doesn't know how to learn a playbook. So I think it's working in New England. And I don't think it's an overreaction, obviously. I don't know if this is a long-term situation, but it seems to be working. Do you like what you've seen from Cam so far?
I love what I'm seeing from Cam so far. I think the long-term situation you could be alluding to is just his health, right? The key to making this work for the Patriots is the health of Cam Newton. If he can stay healthy and they can continue to pound the football the way that they are, then I think they have a system that can go into Baltimore and can compete with Baltimore, because that's always been the biggest issue when Brady played these running teams. They could just keep him off the football field, right? Like, they could just run the football, they could chew up the clock, and they could keep him off the football field. And so that's what I see with the New England Patriots. They have an offense that now they can control the clock a lot differently than they could if they were with Tom Brady. So I don't know if Tom Brady was on that team, if he would have been able to take it down to a last second play, you know what I mean, to win the football game against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. And so to me, what they have now is they have this offensive system, they have this juggernaut, and it really kind of feels like this is what Bill has been kind of wanting for a while, something like this. And this is like a new toy for him. And I think he's going to do amazing, honestly, because you're giving one of the greatest minds in football, a different weapon, something different that he's never had before. And we've seen him get beat with that same system. And so I can only imagine now that he has it and he has a guy like Cam Newton, like who wants to tackle Cam Newton in December? You know what I'm saying? None of them linebackers that weigh 225 pounds now, 230, none of them, I had to say that because they didn't weigh that much when I played. It was like 270. It was like 270 pounds when I played. But that's different. We're going to talk about them now. I just think that, none of these players, linebackers, safeties are going to want to tackle Cam Newton late in December. He's going to feel like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's tough for me, because I'm rooting for the Dolphins, but it's like I'm so conflicted. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm happy the Patriots are winning, and this is a weird feeling for me. But I just love Cam. I want to see him be successful, so I'm glad it's working there. Well, thanks so much, Reggie. I really appreciate it. Make sure you check Reggie out on Big Noon Kickoff Show on Fox this weekend. Stay safe. Hope the family's well, and thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you.